Before we get started, I would ask everyone please to turn off cell phones. The hearing today is being live streamed on YouTube. And I would ask all those who do come forward to speak to an application today to use the microphones provided to ensure that all the discussions can be heard clearly. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act, 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that apply to property, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to sever property to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must complete a decision request form. These forms are available at the end of the horseshoe. Please ensure that you include your email address on this form because all of the Toronto Local Appeal Board notifications will be sent by email. Once completed, please give the card to committee staff before you speak or leave it in the black drop box at the end of the row where staff are seated. Now, you may not agree with the decision of the committee. Decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, or in some limited circumstances to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Procedure. To ensure a fair and timely hearing, I will vet the agenda to determine which applications can be dealt with immediately and which applications have individuals present, other than the applicant, who wish to address the committee. I will call each item in the order it is listed on the agenda. Now, I must bring your attention to the fact that if you look at your agenda, you'll see an error. There are, in fact, I'm going to be relying heavily on the addresses because the numbers, I think, are off by 1. So listen for the address that I'm calling out to signify to you that your application is coming under consideration. I will vet the agenda to determine which applications can be dealt with immediately and which applications have individuals present. I will call each item in order that it's listed on the agenda and will ask for individuals to identify themselves. So if there are people present in interest, the matter will be held until all the non-contested applications have been dealt with. If an item is held, we strongly encourage the applicant or the agent to meet with the interested parties outside of the committee room to resolve and hear concerns and issues. Now, if no person is present in interest, then the item will be called in its order on the agenda to be heard for non-contested applications. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant will proceed with their presentation if required by committee. The committee may ask questions and or take the matter into the committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant, will be given a maximum, of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are approaching your 5-minute mark. When addressing the committee, please come forward to the podium, clearly state your name and address, and please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. If you have a written submission from which you read, please hand it to the acting Deputy Secretary Treasurer when you are finished. The applicant or agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee. Please note that the committee may not entertain extensive revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide instead to defer the application if it is substantially revised in order to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. So once the applicant has spoken, then people in interest, either in support or opposed to the application, will be invited to speak. If there are several speakers sharing the same view, please select a spokesperson to present the group's opinion. We do want to hear your views. However, covering the same points is not required and will not advance your cause. Now, committee members may ask questions of each speaker. When all the speakers are finished, the applicant or agent will have an opportunity to rebut. However, rebuttal is confined to only those issues which were raised by the speakers. And that will mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. Now, Acting Deputy Secretary Treasurer, Madam, may I ask you if the Chair and committee members have confirmed the minutes of the last public hearing?
Yes, they have.
Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest by panel members or staff for today's agenda?
No.
Thank you. Files to be closed. Madam Acting Deputy Secretary Treasurer, are there any files to be closed?
File number A0554, 19 TEY 10 Radnor. There was a request to withdraw the application from the applicant on November 22nd. The matter had been deferred, but there's a request to withdraw, so matters in your hand.
Not on today's agenda, though. It's not on today's agenda.
No, it isn't.
Okay, so there's been a request to close that file. Is the applicant for that file here? It won't be then. In that case, I'll look for a motion to close the application cited, please.
Motion to close.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carried. With
No refund.
without refund. Deferral request. Acting Deputy Secretary Treasurer, have you received any requests for deferral?
No, we haven't.
Thank you. All right, then, I will now vet the agenda. Number 45 DEWSON Street. Applicant here? Thank you. Sorry. Excuse me, sir. I'm going to vet the agenda. I'm going to read through the entire list. And this is to determine which applications have persons present who wish to speak to an application as well as the applicant. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak to 45 or 47 DEWSON? Okay, seeing none. 112 BALSAM Avenue. Applicant? Thank you. Anyone present in interest? Person here? Yes? In that case, 112 BALSAM will be held down. 45 Victoria Park Ave. Applicant, please. Thank you. Anyone present in interest? 44.5 Victoria Park Ave. Applicant again. Thank you. 327 Willow Avenue. Thank you, applicant. Anyone present in interest to speak to that application? 115 Queens Quay East. Thank you very much. Anyone present? There's a person present. Okay, 15 Queens Quay will be held down. And again, I encourage you to take this opportunity to have a chat outside in the hallway. 74 Dovercourt Road. Thank you. Anyone present in interest? 84 Atlas Avenue. Thank you. Anyone present in interest? Thank you. 84 Atlas as a person present in interest and will be held down. Number 104 Pembroke Street. Thank you. Those in interest? 76 Hazelton Ave. Applicant. Anyone present in interest to speak to that application? 299 Durie Street. Thank you. Anyone present in interest? 31 Hunter Street. Thank you. Anyone present in interest? 93 Hillcrest Drive. 93 Hillcrest Drive. Applicant. Okay, we'll see if the applicant arrives a little later. Anyone present to speak to 93 Hillcrest? Number 13, Oswald Crescent. Thank you. Anyone present? .379 Ontario Street. Thank you. Anyone present in interest on that one? 379 Ontario. Seeing none, we move on to 77 Eaton Avenue. Applicant, thank you. You're present on that one. Okay, so number 77 Eaton Avenue will be held down. And I invite you to speak in the hall if you wish. Don't have to, but you may wish to. 530 Oakwood Avenue. Applicant, thank you. Anyone present in interest? Yes, there is someone. Thank you. Okay. So that's 530 Oakwood to be held down. 359 Caledonia Road. Thank you. Anyone present in interest? 202 Willow Avenue. Applicant? Person in interest? Applicant. Applicant both. Anyone in interest? 209 Parkside. Applicant, thank you. Anyone present in interest on 209 Parkside? 111 Beaconsfield Ave. Thank you. Anyone present in interest on that? 23, sorry, my file number, 7 Clinton Place. Thank you. Anyone present in interest on 7 Clinton? 328 Parliament. 328 Parliament. Applicant not yet arrived. Anyone present in interest on 328 Parliament? Number 2, Greenlaw Ave. Thank you. Anyone present in interest on that application? 42 Muriel Ave. Thank you. Anyone present in interest? And finally, number 145 Queen Street East. Applicant, please. There he is. Thank you. Anyone present in interest on that one? No. So let me recap to tell you which ones are being held down. Through this vetting. Number 112 Balsam, held down. 15 Queens Quay East, held down. 84 Atlas Avenue, held down. 77 Eaton Ave, held down. And 530 Oakwood Ave, held down. And we shall see if the applicants turn up on a couple of applications as we progress. All right then. We are ready to begin to hear the uncontested applications. So we shall begin by asking the applicant for 45 DEWSON to come forward, please. Good morning.
Good morning, members of the committee. How are you today?
Doing well, thanks. Just give me a moment. I'm going to just let you know what the committee is dealing with on this application and 47. The committee has before it the following communications: material submitted by the applicant, including decision numbers from previous applications, a staff report from the Acting Supervisor of Tree Protection, Urban Forestry. On 47 DEWSON, again, applicants submitted by the applicant plus some previous decision numbers. May I ask you please to state your name and address?
Dion Gonsalves, and the address is 49 DEWSON Street.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, then, committee members, would we like to see a brief presentation on this application, or if you have questions for the applicant, we could go straight to?
I don't need a presentation.
Kathleen?
Okay.
All right, then. Let's go to questions. Any questions for you of the
No
applicant?
questions for me, no.
In that case, just a moment, please.
No worries.
In that case, I will look to panel members for a motion with respect to 47 DEWSON,
45.
45 DEWSON.
I'd put forward a motion to approve. I think they're all quite minor and really just reflecting the existing built status of the house with some improvement. So I'd put forward a motion to approve, subject to urban forestry condition number 2.
Thank you. So motion to approve with forestry,
And I'll second that.
seconded by Ms. Larson. All those in favor? Motion is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to 47 DEWSON. Any questions of the applicant?
No question.
No question.
I'll look to panel for a motion, please.
I'll go ahead and put a motion to approve, subject to the previous comments I made on the 45 Ds.
Motion by Mr. Reed. Is there a second?
And I'll second that.
Second by Ms. Larson. All those in favor?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Motion is approved. Thank you.
Morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
.112 Balsam Avenue is being held down. We move to 46 Victoria Park Avenue. Applicant for this one, please. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Sean Galbraith. I'm a planner here on behalf of the applicant.
Could I ask you your address, please?
Sorry?
Your address, please.
My address is 1 Yonge Street, Unit 1801.
Thank you very much, Mr. Galbraith. Let me please just read into the record the materials we're dealing with. The committee has before it the following. Materials submitted by the applicant. We have in support correspondence from 73 Pine Crescent and 2 letters from in support signed by the owners of 115 Balsam, 116 Balsam.
We're on the next file.
Next.
Pardon me.
46 Victoria.
Pardon me.
All good?
All right, the committee on this one, on 46 Victoria Park, has before it a copy of material submitted by the applicant, covering letter from Mr. Galbraith, previous decision, plus a staff report from the Supervisor, Ravine and Natural Feature Protection, Urban Forestry. Panel members, do we wish a presentation from Mr. Galbraith or go straight to questions?
I don't need.
I don't, I need it.
Any questions?
Not from me. No.
And then we'll deal with 46 Victoria Park Ave first. And I'll look to panel for a motion, please.
I'd be happy to put forward a motion. I understand this is in response to the consent that recently went through, and so this is acknowledging existing conditions. So I would forward a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Reid.
And I'll second that.
Second by Ms. Larson. All those in favor? Motion is carried.
Thank you.
We still have to do number 5. Sorry.
We still have 44 and a half. All right. You don't need to restate your name. Okay. On this application, panel members, any questions?
I don't have any questions. No. And I'd like to put through a motion to support for the same rationale as my colleague mentioned before, that it's in response to the recent consent.
Thank you very much. Motion to approve by Ms. Larson. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second, Mr. Reid. All those in favor? Motion is carried.
Thank you again.
Thanks.
Thank you. And we move on to 327 Willow.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Could I ask you to state your name and address, please?
Michael Rio, 327 Willow Avenue.
Thank you. Michael, just let me read into the record the materials that which the committee has before it. And they are simply the materials submitted by you, the applicant. Panel members, questions or a presentation from the applicant?
I don't require it. Thanks.
Okay.
I think this is straight.
Is there a motion?
Yeah, I would put forward a motion to approve. I think the variances are all quite minor and in keeping with the context of the neighborhood.
So a motion to approve by Mr. Reid,
And I'll second that.
second by Ms. Larson. All those in favor? Motion is approved.
Thank you.
Your application is approved.
Thanks.
We go now to 74 Dovercourt Road. Applicant, please.
Hi, my name is Mike De Oliveira. I'm here representing 74 Dovercourt from Replacement Design, located at 911 Davenport Road.
Thank you very much. I shall read the materials we're dealing with. The committee has before it material submitted by the applicant, plus email correspondence from the assistant planner, community planning at City Planning, and a staff report from Engineering and Construction Services, received September and December 2019. In support, there are 2 form letters. So on this application, do we require a presentation from the applicant?
Not from me.
Any questions?
No, I think I'm good. I think that's. And I'll put through forward a motion to approve, subject to the engineering requirements.
Subject to the
Engineering requirements?
engineering. Very good. Motion to approve by Ms. Larson.
I think the engineering requirements got subsequently removed because they thought there was a laneway
Okay.
going in as well.
Okay.
So yeah,
Good.
Yeah,
no one.
that's correct.
Yeah,
Friendly amendment here to remove the engineering.
very friendly.
So the motion is to simply approve. Ms. Larson, is there a second for that?
Second.
All those in favor? Ms. Larson?
Thank you very much.
Application is approved. And that takes us along to number 104 Pembroke Street. The applicant, please.
Good morning, Jonathan Weisel, architect, 36 Janesville Road, Thornhill.
Thank you very much. On this application, committee has before it the material submitted by the applicant, and then a staff report from Community Planning, Toronto and East York District, and a staff report from Tree Protection and Plan Review, Urban Forestry. Panel members, do we wish a presentation on this application, or are there any questions for the applicant?
I do have a question about the width, the building width, proposed building width. Why are you looking for that variance? What's your rationale for going beyond what's permitted?
What we're proposing does not exceed the maximum footprint for a laneway suite, which is 10 meters by 8 meters. I had to rotate at 90 degrees to not create a variance. You require 7.5 meters from the back wall of the building to the laneway suite, so that's the reason for that variance. But it is a wide lot, and there is room on one side for a parking space and for the bicycle parking that's required.
I have no questions, no.
All right, then. In that case, I shall look to panel for a motion, please.
I'd put forward a motion. I think, understanding my colleague's question about the width, this is a heavily urbanized setting, and I think that an extra couple meters is minor in this context. So I would put forward a motion to approve, subject to the 2 conditions of community planning. Are you aware of those? Okay. In terms of approved with, it's substantially in accordance with the plan submitted, and that a green roof be constructed as per the drawings.
Okay.
And urban forestry condition number 2. Yeah.
Okay, then. Motion
And I'll
to...
second that.
Thank you.
Seconded by Ms. Larson. So there's a motion to approve with forestry number 2 and the planning related conditions. All those in favor? Your motion or your application is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. We go to 76 Hazelton, please.
Morning, committee members. My name is Jason Cuttajar, applicant and designer of the home. I live at 39 Braywin Drive.
Good morning.
Good morning.
On this application, committee has before it material submitted by the applicant, a previous decision, number A0230, 18 TEY, and report from Heritage Preservation Services, City Planning. In fact, 2 reports from Heritage Preservation Services. So, shall we go to questions straight away, or would we like a presentation first?
Question.
I think questions are...
Questions, please.
I actually do have a question. I noticed that you're planning on putting plumbing and a washroom into the basement of the garage, and I'd like to know your rationale for that because I have some concerns.
Yes, so the homeowners will be spending a lot of time in the garage doing hobbies and whatnot. They're of retirement age, and rather than going back to the house to use the bathroom, it's just convenient to have it there. Also, for future development, years down the road, if they were to ever follow the city's linked policy towards rental units for carriage houses, the work would be done there for future as well.
The intent is to not include a suite in the...
Absolutely not. No, not at this time.
You can see the concern that panel members have in the backs of their mind, which is that there's no laneway there, so we don't want to construct what could be conceived to be a laneway suite.
Absolutely. I mean, if that were to be the case down the road, they'll have to come back to committee. They understand that. This is purely for their use right now. As we were doing construction on the home, we discovered that the foundation is not any good on the garage, so the potential is there to have increased storage for the garage, and that's really the reason that we're doing it.
What if you were just to, to connect plumbing and rough it in without actually building out a washroom? How big of a problem would that be for the applicant?
That's not an issue. I mean, really, again, they wanted a bathroom out there because they plan on spending a lot of time outside. That was really the rationale. If the committee decides that a bathroom is not allowed and they just want plumbing, I'm assuming they would be okay with that.
You're the owner? If you would come to the podium, please. Would you state your name and address?
Good morning. My name is Jaleh Farhadpour. My husband is Tom Phillips. Due to the right-of-way of this property, we cannot have any green in the backyard. So I love gardening, and I want to use half of the garage as a gardening thing with boxes of plants and so on. As you see, we have a skylight because of that. So in order to do all of those gardening, first of all, we need water for sure. And because I'm a gardener, I want to spend summer there, have flowers and so on, most of the garage, and hopefully, if we can afford it, have the garage later going down. If we have we can have a car elevator. We cannot afford it at this point, but we need a washroom. Just because of that, there wouldn't be, basically that garage is our backyard because there is no green allowed in the backyard at all. So it is our backyard more than anything else.
Could I ask you then, the basement then will be used for
Gardening
what?
tool, most of the gardening stuff. We don't have storage in the house too because our kids are going to move with us too. So we thought that, and you never know, this is a very dense area right now. Now that we are going to all this expense of doing it, we thought if we do it and we have to redo the foundation, we can have more storage room there. Mainly for gardening, basically, because we want green and we want plant and we want to have green stuff there.
So, just a quick question. So you want to have running water? Is that what you're saying? Is it the washroom that you want, or is it the running water?
Water and washroom, because when you were there, like even in this winter, I'm planning to have our garden there. It's going to be we are going to have, right now, we plant everything in the house, all the herbs and even lemon. We have a big lemon tree in our kitchen and outside. So we are thinking that we spend a lot of time doing our gardening in the garage. So if it's winter, we don't want to put the coat on and go, especially with our age, we need more washroom than anyone else.
So are you planning on using this more as a sort of a pseudo greenhouse or
Greenhouse,
a garage?
hobby, and a garage, because we have a car too. So that's what we think. Hope we are allowed.
You see the concern that the panel is just thinking about?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Any further questions of the applicants?
No, I think I'm...
I'll look to panel for a motion on this application, please.
I'd put forward a motion to approve. I think I understand there is concern about this becoming a rental unit or a living space prematurely, and policies change down the road. So I respect that it makes sense at this future-proof that and to use this garage as living space. So I would put forward a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Reid. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Ms. Larson. All those in favor? Those opposed? Your motion is approved, or your application is approved.
Thanks.
And we move on to 299, DURIE.
Hello, I'm Nova Tiona, the architect, 52 BD Avenue.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning.
On this application, the committee has before it a copy of materials submitted by the applicant, a covering letter from Nova Tiona, the agent, presentation package from Nova Tiona, received on Jan 20, and 2 form letters in support of the application, plus some supplementary materials received recently that involve a site plan and photographs. Okay. And committee members, would you like a presentation on this?
Don't need a presentation.
I think I'm fine.
Questions for the applicant? I do have a question for you. Can I ask you to what extent, if any, does the roof line on the 3rd floor change?
At the rear, it doesn't raise, but it's actually just, we're creating a shed roof at the back, so the peak doesn't change at all.
So so the space that's being closed is simply the space inside the roof?
Yeah, we're basically going from a gable to a shed roof at the rear. Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you. If there are no further questions, I'll ask panel for a motion, please.
I'll put through a motion to approve. I think it's in keeping with the neighborhood, and I note that we haven't had any objections, so I'll put through a motion to approve.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to approve by Ms. Larson.
Second.
Second by Mr. Reid. All those in favor? Your application is approved.
Should I stand? I'm next as well. I'm for the next address.
The next one, okay,
Yeah.
very good. Well, do hang in then, thank you. 3100 Street.
Yes.
Very good, okay. On 31 Hunter, the committee has before it the following. Materials submitted by the applicant, once again, covering letter from Nova Tiona, and a presentation package also from her. We have a staff report from the Director of Community Planning, Toronto and East York, and 2 form letters in support. So here, any questions for the applicant or request to hear a presentation?
Neither, thanks.
I do have a question about minor variance number 1. Can you tell us what gives rise to minor variance number 1? What obstacle or what problem are you looking at design-wise that has created that variance?
I'm sorry, I don't have it. I just have it printed out. I know we have.
This is the roof eaves.
Oh, the roof eaves. We're just trying to square off this house. A number of scabbed-on renovations have happened over the years, and so there's a lot of projections happening over the successive renovations. So we're just trying to clean it all up because they have a pigeon and a raccoon problem. So we're just trying to go back to the original, because there's actually some step backs that are already happening and causing water damage on the interior. So we're actually trying to remedy that by going to the foremost side yard.
Thank you for that.
Meanwhile,
Also, on a larger issue, have you seen the report from City Planning which expresses concern and a recommendation with respect to the FSI?
yes,
So quite a bit of concern about the FSI. You're proposing it at 1.19, and planning is saying they would not wish to see it larger than 0.85.
right.
Tell us why you need the 1.19.
Well, the basement is actually, they're taking into account a basement, so it's relative to average grade. And so the basement is a walkout, which is currently storage. And so that's how we're already non-conforming. And then the small addition that we're adding on the second floor bumps us over even more. But it's the basement also is being taken into account. Because the grade changes from street to the back.
Could you tell us what the current FSI of the property is?
Sorry, it is, current is 0.78. We're going to 0.85.
And are you fine with community planning's recommendation that 0.85 exclusive of the basement be a condition of approval?
Yes.
Okay.
Any further questions? No. I just have one more, and this is just to understand the plans. So the current house has 3 decks.
It does.
Is your proposal simply to replace the second floor deck with enclosed space?
Yes,
Pretty much
essentially.
that it?
That's where the raccoons hang out.
Now I get it, okay. All right, then, if there are no further questions, is there a motion on this application?
I'll put forward a motion to support.
Thank you.
Motion to approve by Ms. Larson. Second on that?
Subject to the planning department conditions, number 1.
Very good. So, subject to planning.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Reed. All those in favor? Your application is approved.
Thank you.
Okay, is the applicant for 93 Hillcrest present? Still not present? Okay, we'll move on past that then to 13 Oswald Crescent. Applicant, thank you.
Panel members, Michael
morning.
Pate of 13 Oswald Crescent.
Thank you very much. Just a moment while we look at the materials before the committee. The committee has before it materials submitted by the applicant, plus correspondence in support from Ian Thompson at 11 Oswald, next door neighbor, I guess. So that is a support correspondence from Ian Thompson. On number 13, on 13 Oswald, do we wish a presentation or go to questions?
Questions is fine.
Pretty straightforward. I'll look to panel for a motion, please.
Sir, go ahead.
I'll put forward a motion to support. I think this is very minor, and I note that there is 1 letter of support.
Motion to approve by Ms. Larson, a second on that. All those in favor? Your application is approved. Thank you. And moving along to 379 Ontario.
Morning, committee members, Mr. Chairman.
Morning.
My name is Graham Barrett, 1575 Dundas Street West. I'm the agent for the owner of 379 Ontario Street.
Thank you very much. On this application, the committee has before it materials submitted by the applicant, a previous committee decision, staff report from Heritage Preservation, 4 form letters in support, and in opposition, 1 correspondence from Ron Peterson's solicitor on behalf of the owners of 381. And plus, there have been some recent supplementary materials submitted, a letter of stating no objection. So thank you. So on this one,
I think maybe a brief
this
explanation.
brief
is
presentation, I
warranted.
think that would help the committee, please.
Yeah, so I'm here to request 3 minor variances from the zoning bylaw to legalize construction of this home that was built slightly too large due to contractor error. It's been quite an ordeal for the owner, and he would very much like to rectify this situation and move on. This home was approved for minor variances back on January 24th, 2018. At that time, a rear second-story addition and a complete third-story addition were approved. The basement was also approved to be converted into habitable space. 3 of the variances have changed due to mistakes made during construction. The maximum height of all front and exterior main walls is 9.5 meters. The proposed and already built height is 9.54 meters. This was not a required variance the first time around, and clearly this was an error. The owner had no interest in building his home 4 centimeters above what was permitted. There would be no point whatsoever. As for the building depth, currently proposed and already built depth is 20.51 meters. This applies to the basement section only. Let's see that the actual home ends here, basement extends out, there's living space underneath. The rest of the home is 17.47 meters in depth. It was previously approved at 20.09. Again, the contractor didn't follow the construction drawings correctly, and we have a difference of 42 centimeters, or about 1 1/3 feet in basement depth only. Again, clearly an error. The owner went through all the proper steps previously, including committee of adjustment, and had no desire to illegally push the envelope by less than half a meter and run the risk of all these delays and costs. The third variance is for distance between main walls. It's 1.12 meters proposed, again, already built, 5.5 meters required. This is for a second-story bathroom window and ground floor dining room window, which are located along this wall here. So again, it's truly minor. These windows were in the previous plans as well. I'm happy to address the concerns that were raised by the one letter of opposition sent in by the adjacent neighbor if you'd like me to, but I believe a lot of it is rooted in an ongoing neighbor dispute, and we're not really here to address that. But I am here to speak to the 3 variances in question, which I believe are quite minor in nature. They're suitable for the development and use of the land, and they're in keeping with the intent of both the official plan and the zoning bylaw. So, as I said, the owner would very much like to rectify this and move on. He's not particularly happy about the mistakes that have made along the way and the drawn-out manner in which this has transpired through no direct fault of his own. So,
thank you.
Thanks for your time.
So I'll just lead off in some questions. So the basement extension to 20.51, at ground level, what do we see? Is it a deck or what?
It is a deck.
It's a deck at ground
I can
level.
show you a photo here. So it's not quite the best photo. There is a deck, and as you can see, the home on the right-hand side of that photo is 381, which had sent in a letter of opposition with concerns about building depth and height, and they were here before, rejected, and then at OMB, and they were approved around 21 meters. So,
you're 21 meters above ground and you're 21 meters below ground.
not even. The exact numbers are, let me see here. So, yes, they were rejected at Committee of Adjustment. They were approved at the OMB with a depth of 20.95 meters, and that's the entire home, not just the basement. And main wall height variance in the rear of 9.88 meters as well. So we're somewhat in the shadow of the neighboring home, but I believe it's minor, and we just like to put this to bed, so to speak.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Questions of the applicant?
Yeah, hi. I think the first 2 variances requested are very minor, and I understand the contractor error. in that. But the third one, you said that these two windows on the first floor and second floor were included in the previous plans?
Yeah, they're shown on the permit drawings that I've obtained. There's a bit of a confusion in this entire process, clearly, where the owner had hired an architect to draw up his initial plans and go through committee, and it was approved. Then he hired a builder to build said plans. This was not done correctly, but at that time, the previous architect had gone out of business, which is what I'm told, so there's a bit of a break in communication along the way, but from the permit drawings that I've seen, those windows are shown on there. I didn't see a variance on the previous notice of decision, but they are shown on the permit drawings.
Okay. And the neighbor to the, I guess that would be your east, the bordering neighbor of the insufficient depth window walls, they haven't obviously raised any concerns?
They've not. The owner has spoken to them, and they were unopposed, but they are away and did not sign a letter of support.
Okay, thanks.
If there are no more questions, I would look to panel for a motion, please.
Sure, I'd put forward a motion to approve. I think understanding that small mistakes happen and these are small. So yeah, a motion to approve, and there are no conditions, right? Additional
Not
conditions?
see.
No.
Does preservation,
That was just for
I guess, apply to any?
information.
No.
Right.
So there are no.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Second by Ms. Larson. All those in favor? Great. Application is approved.
Thank you very much.
And we go along to 77. Oh, no, I think 77 Eaton is being held down. Is it? Am I right or wrong? 77 Eaton is held down, as is 530 Oakwood. So we're moving along now to 359 Caledonia. Applicant, please.
Good morning, committee.
Good morning.
Victor Martins for 359 Caledonia, Toronto. My father, the applicant, Joe Martins, right behind me, sitting in the chairs.
Thank you very much. On this application, okay, just 1 second, please. All right, 359 Caledonia. On this application, committee has before it the materials submitted by the applicant only. Thank you. All right. Pretty straightforward application. Are there any questions of the applicant?
No.
I'll look to committee then for a motion, please.
Go ahead.
I'll put forward a motion to support, to approve. I think this is pretty minor, and I note that there's no letters of objection, and I think it's pretty straightforward.
Thank you. Second by Mr. Reed.
Thank you.
Motion by Ms. Larson. All those in favor? The application is approved. Next application will be 202 Willow Ave, 202 Willow.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Paul Dowsett, Principal Architect at Sustainable, representing the homeowner.
Good morning. Thank you very much. The committee has before it on this application the materials submitted by the applicant, staff report from community planning, and also from engineering and construction. And by way of correspondence, there is a support letter from 200 Willow, which is next door, I guess, plus some supplementary materials received in the last couple of days. So,
If I may, we would also like to make some reductions to the requests for variances.
all right then, let's go through those carefully, please then.
Okay. Variance number 1, requesting 50% of the rear yard be soft landscaped. We would like to remove that variance. So we would like to add To the initially proposed 85.18 meters squared of soft landscaping, we'd like to add 5.69 square meters for a total of 90.87 meters squared, exactly meeting the requirement.
Of soft landscape.
Of soft landscaping. And in order to do that, as you can see on the screens, we would like to remove 5.69 meters of the garage on the south side, increasing the south side lot line from, or south side setback from 0.31 meters to 1.03 meters.
Let's go slowly here. So
Yeah, it's tricky.
For the clarity of committee, minor variance number 1 you are asking to have deleted.
Correct.
It's struck. Okay. So it's gone. Does minor variance number 2 change?
Changes, yes. It changes from total floor area of all ancillary buildings on the lot, changes from 64.45 by adding 5.69, or rather by subtracting 5.69, we get 58.76 meters, exactly in line with the planning staff report from January 15th.
So number 2 changes to 58.76.
Correct.
Good.
It's like math class today.
And no new setbacks arise as a result. Okay.
Questions of the applicant?
I don't. I'd like to put forward, though, a motion to support, following both the planning conditions and the engineering conditions as outlined.
And would you, and to the minor variances that we're dealing with now, would you tell us what you are doing with those?
I think that the planning department recommendations were that the first variance be deleted, which he's done, and the second reduce it to 58 meters squared, which he's done.
So motion to approve with variance number 1 deleted, variance number 2 altered to read 58.76 meters squared, and that takes into consideration the planning report.
Yes.
So how about the engineering construction report? Is there anything there in the way of a recommendation that we should look at? So either. Just a moment, please.
Submitting a revised site plan drawing to show the proposed garage setback a minimum of 0.6 meters from the property line. Are you aware of that?
From which property line?
From the rear.
Do they specify? Because we are moving from the south property line to 1.03 by this change. So if they're meeting the south property line, we're more than complying with that.
Have you seen the engineering?
No, I have not.
Asking for a 0.06 meter setback from the laneway property line. It says they're talking about protecting for future lane widening. So 0.06. Are you right up to the property line, or?
And I think we're showing 1.0 meters.
Okay, that would be fine.
Yeah. So had to squint to read that.
Okay, then there is a motion to approve as I've stated. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Mr. Reed. All those in favor? The application as amended is approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. No engineering requirement, no. Now, by my reckoning, we are on 209 Parkside Drive. And let me ask you to state your name and address, please.
Hello, I'm Sean Galbraith, planner here on behalf of the applicant, 1 Yonge Street, Unit 1801.
Thank you very much. Okay, on this application, committee is dealing with materials submitted by the applicant, presentation materials including 10 photographs, and there are 5 form letters in support by owners on Westminster and Parkside Drive, plus some supplementary materials received recently. And on this application, there are some actual changes to the wording which are simply editorial rather than of the substance. And so the purpose of the application is being changed to read, to enclose the existing second floor front platform of the existing 3-story detached dwelling.
We're okay with that.
Okay. The next change, again, it's an editorial change, is on minor variance number 1, which will now read, the front yard setback of the enclosed second floor front platform will be 1.32 meters. And there's also a minor wording change to minor variance number 2. It will read, the floor space index will be 0.67 times the area of the lot, which in brackets 388.50 meters squared. Okay, then, do we wish a presentation from the applicant or to go to questions straight away?
No thanks.
So the footprint of the house does not enlarge at all?
No.
Okay.
Just enclosing the second floor deck.
The second floor deck, okay.
It needed to be rebuilt because of a fire anyway.
Okay, then if there are no further questions, I'll look to the members for a motion, please.
Sure, I'll put forward a motion. I think the revised wording on the defining the setback to the second level is helpful, so in that context, I'll put forward a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Reid.
And I completely agree, and I will second the motion.
Seconded by Ms. Larson. All those in favor?
Thank you.
The application is approved. (111) Beaconsfield Ave.
Good morning, committee members. My name is Susanna Korkorka. I'm the architect for the proposal. My address is 7 Triller Avenue.
Good morning. On this application, committee has before it materials submitted by the applicant and support letters in the form of 3 letters signed by the owners or occupants of 3 addresses.
Sorry, there's actually
no, more than that.
6 letters.
Yeah, it's actually 6, yeah. 3 on Afton and 3 on Beaconsfield by the look of it. Plus some supplementary materials. And on this application also, I have some editorial changes to make to the purpose of the application and also to minor variance number 1. So the purpose of the application, the wording is changed to read, to alter the existing 2-story semi-detached dwelling by construction of a new 1-story rear addition with a ground floor deck.
Yes, that's correct.
And on minor variance number 1, the following wording change. Platform without main walls attached to or less than 0.3 meters from a building with a floor no higher than the first floor of the building above. Established grade may encroach into the required rear yard setback 2.5 meters if it is no closer to a side lot line than 0.66 meters. The rear platform encroaches 0.26 meters into the required rear yard and is 0 meters from the north and south lot lines.
Okay. It was very minor.
Very minor.
Okay.
I think it does clarify, though, the intent. Good. Do we need a presentation here or go straight to questions?
I don't need a presentation, thanks.
Okay.
And I have no questions.
If there are no questions, I'll look to panel for a motion, please. Pretty straightforward application. Not asking FSI or height or depth.
Yeah, I'd put forward a motion. I think, as the chair says, the impact of the requested variances are quite minor, and I think the fact you have significant neighborhood support is important, so I'd put forward a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Reid. Second.
And I'll second that.
Second, Ms. Larson. All those in favor?
Thank you so much.
Application is approved. On to number 7, Clinton Place.
Hi, Anthony Arts, 7 Clinton Place.
Good morning. Okay, and on this application, the committee has before it materials submitted by the applicant, plus a Committee of Adjustment decision, A411/01TO, which relates to the subject property. So, any questions of this applicant?
No thanks.
Could we go then to a motion, please?
Yeah, I'd put forward a motion. I think this is very minor, and I think it's always positive to add new rental units in the city, so a motion to approve.
And I'll second that for the same reasoning.
Motion to approve by Mr. Reid, seconded by Ms. Larson. All those in favor?
Thank you.
All those in favor? Ms. Larson? All right. Unanimous approval. Thank you. Let's find out if the applicant for 328 Parliament Street has arrived. Very good. Please come forward, state your name and address, please.
Yes, hi, my name is Leo Mastandre. I'm the agent for the owners at 328 Parliament Street.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, on this application, committee is dealing with material submitted by the applicant, plus support. In the form of 515 form letters in support, plus various supplementary materials which involve support and support letters received recently. So a large number of support letters received. Would we like a presentation from the applicant, or go straight to questions?
I have a question. Can you outline for me just a bit about why all of a sudden this needs to be legalized, and what's the history? How long has it been used as a place of worship?
Yes, so it's been used as the place of worship for 8 years. And there is no external work to the building. It was all just interior partitions that were removed. And it was donated for a place of worship.
So what's the rationalization, like why all of a sudden after 8 years is this coming forward to us?
Because they went in for permits to do minor alterations.
Oh, okay.
And at that point, they got a notice realizing that because we are permitted 2.5, but some of it needs to be residential. and they weren't aware of this. So when they went in for permits, they provided a zoning notice, which that's why we're here today.
Is there a motion on this application?
I'll put forward a motion on this one to support. I think that it's a good location. It's been used for a period of time as a place of worship. And in looking at the property, I didn't see any problem with it. And we've obviously received a lot of letters of support from a number of them from out of the area. But
Second that.
So motion to approve by Ms. Larson, second by Mr. Reed. All those in favor? The application is approved.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Okay. Number 2, Greenlaw Ave. Applicant, please.
Very good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Victor Rosen, 1726 St. Clair Avenue West, representing the owner of this application.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. And on this application, committee only has before it the materials submitted by the applicant. So panel members, shall we go straight to questions?
Yeah, I have no questions.
I do have a question. The actual purpose of the accessory structure, could you tell us what it will be used for?
As you can see, Mr. Chairman, from these photos, this area behind the building is used for parking. So basically, it's going to be a garage.
It'll be a garage.
Yes.
It's going to be tight up against that stone wall.
Exactly. We have an existing wall with a height of about 1.8 meters. We're proposing to extend the height to create a flat roof by tying into the existing wall at the west property line that is on bordering the west property line, and also the wall that is to the north, by tying and extending upwards and creating the accessory structure there.
Very good, thank you. Okay. I'll look to the panel for a motion, please.
I put forward a motion to approve. I think the variances are quite minor, and the fact that there's no soft landscaping variance that is being triggered by that is positive in my perspective. So a motion to approve.
And I would also second it. I think it makes sense to tack a garage for secure parking into that area.
Motion to approve by Mr. Reed, second Ms. Larson. All those in favor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. A good afternoon.
242 Muriel Avenue, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, committee panel members. My name's Louis, 37 Oswald Crescent.
Have your full name, please.
Louis Bahania.
Thank you. Committee has before it the materials submitted by the applicant and a staff report from the acting supervisor, tree protection at Urban Forestry. Very good. And are there any questions of this applicant, panel members?
Just to confirm, this is just enclosing the existing front porch?
That's correct.
Okay, and you're aware of the urban forestry conditions?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
What's the existing FSR for the property?
It's 114%, so 1.14.
can have a motion, please.
I'll put forward a motion to support. I think this is pretty minor, and you're aware of the urban forestry condition.
Okay, so motion to approve urban forestry to apply. Is there a second?
Condition 1 of urban forestry.
Condition 1, urban forestry.
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Reid. All those in favor?
Thank you very much.
Application is approved. Okay, and next we go to 145 Queen Street East. Applicant, please. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Could you state your name and address, please?
John Houghton, architect and applicant for Fred Victor Mission.
On this,
And belated Happy New Year.
oh, and to you. Thank you. On this application, committee has before it materials submitted by the applicant, a previous committee decision, A1068-18TY, and a table outlining a summary of correspondence from John Houghton received November 26th. Thank you. Committee members, would we like to hear a presentation on this? Maybe we could benefit.
I wouldn't mind hearing a brief explanation.
Thank you.
Please.
May I relocate to the projector?
Please do.
Thank you.
Now, John, we won't be able to hear you if you're speaking from there, so
May I sit down?
please.
Reach the microphone?
Okay, now that makes
No
sense. yes.
disrespect intended.
None taken, thank you.
Thank you for hearing the presentation. All this work is not in vain. I appreciate that. What has happened in here is we submitted previously to this Committee of Adjustment, and you approved the plans. And that's good news, and we thank you for it. The unfortunate part is the PPR that was presented along with that had the wrong numbers on it. It was a mistake that was made on the PPR. We found this out sometime later when we were applying for a building permit. Can you hear me?
Yes, John, we can.
And then
John, are there any materials to go up on the overhead?
yes.
Okay, that's fine. Carry on, please.
So there was a letter that was submitted in here, which I think you have this on your record in here, this way, explaining what had happened in detail, sent to manager in here, who's attending. And this is the building. You probably saw this a year ago back in February. It's a complicated building, actually. But we're adding two projects in the building. One of them is the area where the kitchen is expanding, and you won't see any of that when this work is completed, if it is approved. This, I can show you where it is. It's the loading dock area. And there's the loading dock in there, and you can see there'll be a wall added in this area in here, so it expands the catering. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we're on the side there.
No.
The other 90.
You got it.
Thank you. So you can see we're going to be adding a wall right at the edge of the loading dock area and carrying it back. And in behind that is a catering kitchen that's there. So we're expanding it by about a huge number of 8.5 square meters. which by the time you finish and look at the aerial shot, you'll never know it's there. You already approved that in principle for the 8.5 square meters. And the other part that was tied into this project was down in the basement. And in the basement area, did I get that right? No. How's that? There's a lot of different materials in that area which need to be stored properly and in fire-rated partitions. I'll give you an example. Here's another one. That's a fire hazard. So it needs to be corrected. And the proposal is basically put a fire-rated wall in there and put in garbage bins and things behind that properly. Here you can see some of them piled up in that area. So the idea then is to make a special garbage room area. And because of that, some of the parking spaces on that in the building are not being used anyway, because essentially a vehicle is considered really a luxury item. And the occupants are lucky to have a car, but are lucky to have a home. And Fred Victor Mission does a wonderful job of providing a home and meals for these people in the building. And by the way, just as an aside, they really have a good kitchen. I couldn't resist that. And that's provided on a regular basis for these people. Now, what happened? Why did we get to this point? You already approved it, but unfortunately, you approved it with the PPR numbers that were incorrect. I guess the complexity of the building must have went south somewhere. But we didn't discover that until about a year later. And when we were applying for a building permit, we said, whoa, wait a minute, these numbers are wrong. So we had those numbers originally on our first drawings that were submitted. But unfortunately, and I can understand because I used to sit on a committee in Montreal for years looking at it, and we had 20 drawings as part of the submission. Buried in there is the calculation of what the FSI numbers are.
John, excuse me. You've actually reached your 5 minutes, but because we've been moving ahead quite rapidly this morning, I'm going to allow you to carry on.
Oh, thank you. I'll try and speed up.
Go ahead.
So bottom line is our numbers were correct, but the PPR that was attached to that had incorrect numbers, and that's part of the submission. No, this way. And you can see the incorrect numbers in here on that. Basically at about a 4.37, and the real number is much more. So I went back to the planner and said, or the zoning examiner, and said, whoa, the numbers aren't right. I don't know where you got them from. It doesn't really matter right now. We have to correct it. So we corrected it in here. This was part of our submission. And they have the correct numbers on it. So now the PPR numbers that are presented are the same as what we originally had last February on our drawings. So I've learned a lesson here. The word of the planner and the written word is mightier than the drawn word. So it's important that we make the two exactly the same. Bottom line is we're requesting an amendment to the variance, or a new variance, I guess, approval for this project. One that will correct the incorrect PPR numbers and make it in sync with the drawings that we originally submitted. You can see in here on the ground floor, this is the existing basement. This is part of the scheme. A series of parking spaces here. And on the proposed change, which was all part of those presentation packages way back a year ago, you can see we're adding in here, we're adding some storage rooms in this area, and we're basically keeping existing parking because they're really parking.
I'll ask you to wrap up to do your summary, please.
Sure. So what we're saying is we want to correct an error that was made a year ago. We'd like some consideration and possibly refund, because paying $5,000 twice is a lot of money for an organization.
How much?
It's about $4,900 every time you make this application.
Or $4,900, okay?
Yeah, $4,975 or so. I'm not saying all, maybe some of it, some consideration, please. And our drawings are showing what we had originally and nothing's changed. The only change has been on the PPR to correct their numbers.
Thank you.
Thank you. And since we're last on the list, number 26, it's time for lamb chops. No, you're not? No.
Sorry, John.
I'll let you have lamb chops.
All right, John, we still have some contested applications to consider as well.
Great.
Okay, I'll open this now. Thank you for your presentation. I'll open this now to questions from the panel members.
My only question, well, in terms of the variances being requested, not the refund question. I understand the program requirement of expanding the kitchen, and I think that makes sense. Just from an operational perspective of the building, are they able to get by without that loading dock?
Well, I apologize. I did not introduce you the interim director of the Fred Victor Mission, who knows all of the operational questions in here and is a very talented person.
Please come up to the podium, sir. Come to the podium, sir. And I beg your pardon. Would you state your name and address, please?
My name is Jose Bertrand. I'm with the Fred Victor Center.
Yes.
And I live at 77 Hillcrest here in Toronto.
My apology to you.
No worries. Yes, this expansion, as small as it may seem, is an expansion to our commercial kitchen, which supplies meals to the homeless and sheltered of the community of Toronto. So this is going to allow us to enhance our capacity and open up and create meals on the weekends. Right now, we're just 5 days a week.
And from the actual loading perspective, like for trucks delivering and coming and going, are you still going to be able to?
Yeah, there's no impact there. This is a sort of a piece of footing that, it's not by the stairs. It doesn't impact loading. There's nothing like that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you. All right. I have some questions with respect to John. You're okay here now at the podium here.
Oh, thank you. No more pictures?
Pardon me?
No more pictures?
Pictures, but we're past pictures now.
Okay.
With respect to the refund request, it's my understanding that, well, tell me if this is true. It's my understanding that the minor variances that were sought appeared correctly, and so what basically was asked for was what the application approved. The application approved the minor variances which were requested, which is what Committee of Adjustment does.
Yes.
We'll get 3 or 4 minor variances, sometimes more, on an application, and we either approve, alter, or refuse those minor variance requests specifically. Okay. So my understanding is that the application was approved and that basically the applicant got what the applicant had asked for.
Yes, and for which we're grateful.
So,
thank you.
In this case, the error between the drawings and what the applicant asked in their minor variance application, that would have come out in the notice. And the applicant would have had a chance to, if there was a difference there, if what they said in the application wasn't what they really wanted as evidenced by the drawings,
that's right.
It was up to them to bring that to the attention of the city during the notice time. But when it came to approval time, the committee approved what the applicant had asked for.
I understand that completely.
I'll be interested in your comment on that. In other words, our concern is that the error made here is not a city error, which we could address. It was an error of oversight or omission on the part of the applicant.
Well, I guess you could say what happened was we didn't see it at the time it was presented. It was only when we got into the detailed stage of applying for a building permit, we looked at the numbers and, whoa, where did that come from? We went back to the zoning. We went zoning examiners several times back and forth and said, where'd you get that number? 4.37 isn't what's on our drawings. And he said, well, the committee doesn't look at the drawings, they look at my numbers. And rightly, I understand that. So there was a variance
The
between
numbers
that.
submitted were the numbers that the applicant provided us. These are the applicant's numbers. They're not ones that we
That's right. Well, the zoning examiner calculated the numbers incorrectly. I didn't catch it, my fault. I didn't see that. I didn't see it until a year later when we went for a building permit. So I'm saying, well, you've approved the drawings, therefore why do we need to come back to committee of adjustment? And I understand now it's important you come back to correct to make the PPR numbers and the drawings that we originally submitted back in February the same numbers. So we're all on the same page. So it was a series of missteps, I guess, along the line.
Right.
And I think it's quite a burden of $5,000 or $4,900 to pay it twice for it. So if it could be some consideration for a charity organization, I would appreciate it.
Any other questions of the applicant? So really, there are two items before us. There are the two variances. Am I right here?
Yes, that's right. There's
There are
two
two
variances.
variances
One of them is the expansion of the
requesting.
kitchen, which makes another 8.5 square meters of building, which you don't see anyway inside the building.
So there are two items
And
here.
helps the operation, as Jose has said, and here the operation of the kitchen expands its capacity. And the second variance is fire hazard. Down in the basement, there's a lot of gasoline and...
Understood. We understand. But there are two items here. There's the application for two minor variances, and then beyond that, there is a request for...
Yes, that's right.
For a refund or some consideration.
Or some consideration.
Yeah.
I want to be fair in a request.
Let's deal first then with the minor variance application. If there are no further questions of the applicant, I'll look to committee for a motion on the application.
I'd be willing to put forward a motion of support for the actual variance application. I think they're very minor and a correction at this stage, and I don't see that it's going to be an issue. I think it's moving in a positive way for Fred Victor, who I know do great charity work. So I would be willing to put forward a motion to support.
Motion to approve by Ms. Larson.
Second.
Second by Mr. Reed. All those in favor?
That's wonderful. Thank you very
Minor
much.
variance application is approved. Okay, moving on to the request for refund.
Maybe we
I think
go
we'll take
into
this into committee.
Yeah.
So we're going to, at this stage, take this issue.
It'd be a charitable donation. There you go, Jose.
John, we've taken it into committee, if you would, please.
No, I understand.
Okay. So,
I just appreciate your consideration of it. Thank you.
I understand that errors are made, and this side, I think there's some fault on the city, and also on the applicant. But I think given the nonprofit nature of the organization, plus the fact that there's a lesser amount of work for staff's time, not from the administrative side, but for actual staff review and analysis of the plans, I would support a 50% reduction.
I would support that as well, given the nonprofit nature and of Fred Victor.
my concern is that the second application, as far as it impacts the planning department, it involves generating a new application, notifying people. It involves the entire process. But I do concede that in this case, the amount of actual prep work in terms of looking at the minor variances themselves and so on would be somewhat diminished. And like my colleagues, I also feel that the nature of the applicant and the good work that we all know that it's done for so many years does merit consideration. So I can see with. So do we have a motion then?
I'd put forward a motion of a 50% refund of.
And I Be willing to second.
Motion to approve a 50% refund of the second application fee, the current one before us now. Put forward by Mr. Reed, seconded by Ms. Larson. All those in favor? And that motion is approved.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Done.
No more presentation, no more pictures?
No, you can have your
Lamb chops.
Lamb chops now, yes.
Thank you.
I'll have to wait for mine.
Well, I can give you the picture.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, and so at this stage, before committee moves into the contested applications, which we shall do shortly, we're going to take a 10-minute break.
Do you want to check on Hillcrest to see if they've come?
What a good idea. Okay. Thank you very much for that. 93 Hillcrest Drive, is that applicant here yet? Okay. Well, when we come back, we will look at 93 Hillcrest and decide what to do with it. Then we'll move on to the contested applications. So 10 minutes, we'll be back here at about 17 or 18 minutes past the hour of 11. So the contested applications will be heard in order as they after the break.
Thanks.
10-minute break. Thank you.
So we'll just open it up. Yeah, because then, yes. To refund.
Kathleen?
So we have 4 more left?
We have the guy that turned up. He's here now. And uncontested is turned up.
5 included now. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I've got that too.
Ladies and gentlemen, we shall resume. Ladies and gentlemen, we shall resume now. And the first thing we have to do is just a quick item of internal business with respect to that last application at the Fred Victor Mission, just to change that wording slightly. So we are going to consider the idea of changing the wording of the last approval to read the 2018 application, which it should have been, instead of the 2019 application, is the one to which the refund will apply. So, is there a motion to that effect from panel members?
I would like to pass a motion that we authorize the refund of 50% of the 2018 fee for Fred Victor.
Thank you. Motion to make that revision, seconded by Mr. Reid. All those in favor? So that revision is done. Motion approved. Thank you. And carrying on now, we will begin with the final one of the uncontested applications. This is 93 Hillcrest. Would that applicant please come forward? This is the last one of the uncontested, as vetted this morning. Good morning, sir. Could you state your name and address?
I apologize. The traffic got me. I wasn't here at the beginning. My name is Louis Battiston, 956 Easterbrook Avenue in Burlington. I'm representing John and Sherry Ruddle on here, and what we're trying to build is a one-story solarium at the rear of the yard.
Okay. If I may, I'll just ask you to hold for a moment, please. Yep. And we'll see what materials the committee is dealing with here. On this application,
the
committee has before it the applicant, the materials submitted by the applicant, and we have correspondence in support from 97 Hillcrest.
Yes.
Plus some supplementary materials received in the last couple of days. So,
I also have other support as well.
Thank you very much. Okay, on this application, committee members, would you like to have a presentation?
I'm fine.
Or are there other questions of the applicant? Okay, then I'll look to committee in that case for a motion on the application.
I'd put forward a motion. I think this is obviously a very minor application. It's located just on the first floor, the sunroom.
Yeah.
And you have support, so I move to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Reid.
And I see this as also being very minor, and I'll second it.
Seconded by Ms. Larson. All those in favor? The application is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we shall move on to the contested applications, and we will hear them in order as they were vetted this morning, which means we will be starting with 112 Balsam Ave. Applicant to come forward first, please. And may I ask, the persons that are here in interest on this application are who? Identify yourselves, please, if you're here in interest on this application. Okay, may I ask you, please, to come forward and have seats along this side of the horseshoe. And the applicant to take the podium, please.
Mr. Chair, if I may, just on your right. I believe the applicant is still having discussions in the hall. So I don't know if the people in opposition, if you would like to go back out into the hall.
Is the applicant in discussion with people in interest?
Yes, they informed me that.
Oh, well then, I think in the interest of just communication, I would advise you to join the group if you wish in the hall to hear what that discussion is. You're ready to proceed. And they're still in the hall with that. I think we should ask them to come in then, please. We'll just take a moment and carry on. And this group of people in interest, how many of you wish to speak to the application? 3 of you wish to speak. And we'll see how many there are amongst those who are outside also wishing to speak. So I will probably limit your time to something less than 5 minutes, depending on how many there are.
We are still outside negotiating with the other components of this conversation. Is there any way that you can continue to push us to the back of the hearings while we finish the conversation?
Your discussions are going fruitfully?
Absolutely, yes.
All right, then. I'm going to have to move you down to the end of the agenda then. And these people are here ready to go. I think you should bring in your other people, and we should proceed now with the application. We understand.
I appreciate it. Were you not part of the conversation outside?
We declined.
You declined the conversation outside.
Excuse me. Remarks are to be addressed through the chair. I'm asking the applicant now to do your presentation, and I'd ask staff to advise those people they should come in now if they want to be part of this application.
With all due respect, Mr. Chair, just a quick question. When you vetted the agenda, you asked us to go outside to speak with the opposition.
That was 2.5 hours ago.
I appreciate that. We are almost completed.
When did you begin your discussions with these people?
When did I begin them?
Yes.
When you vetted the agenda.
You've been in discussion for 2.5 hours.
We went outside and had a discussion. They went to discuss things and got a coffee and came back, and we were literally just negotiating. The neighbors before you declined to be part of that conversation. So why is it that we are being penalized for being outside negotiating, and the neighbors that are in a hurry to complete this didn't want to be part of the negotiations?
Enough. Okay. How much time do you require?
10 more minutes.
I'm going to then set you down and hold you down further. So I'm asking these members of people in opposition to wait for that time, and we will do your application after the next one we do. So you will be following 15 Queens Quay East. In whatever time that takes, it'll be whatever time it takes to do that application. You're the next up.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So, I would ask at this stage for, if these people would please vacate those seats, and if the applicant would step down from the podium, please, and we'll ask the applicant for 15 Queens Quay to come forward.
Many thanks.
And I already know this is going, oh, this one has to be heard. Okay. So, good morning. Please come forward, applicant for 15 Queens Quay. Are there people in interest here for 15 Queens Quay? I understand that they've satisfied their questions, so they are not present. Okay. So we will at this stage hear this application. It is actually uncontested, but its turn has come. Would you state your name and address, please?
Thank you very much. My name is Christopher Tanzola, and I am the lawyer for the applicant at 15 Queens Quay.
One moment, please, Mr. Tanzola. Excuse me, that conversation, I asked that conversation be taken to the hallway, please. Pardon me, Mr. Tanzola. Your address, please.
My address is associated with my law firm, so it's 5255 Yonge Street, but I'm the lawyer for the applicant in this case.
Very good.
Up on the screen before you...
One moment, please.
No, thank you, sir.
If I may, on this application, I'm going to read the materials that the committee is dealing with, then we'll determine whether a presentation is needed. Okay, so seven. So, on the 15 Queens Quay East application, committee has before it quite a number of materials. There are the materials submitted by the applicant, plus a covering letter from Mr. Tanzola, previous Committee of Adjustment decisions, 1, 2, 3 of them, an OMB decision, previously an LPAT decision, Parking rationale from BA Consulting Group from July last year, a briefing letter from Benjamin Larson, and correspondence from Mr. Tanzola. We have a comment from TCRA, and we have correspondence in opposition from two persons at 39 Queens Quay East, plus some supplementary materials. Okay. Committee members on this application, would we like to have a brief presentation?
I think questions are fine.
Well, we can go straight to questions if you prefer.
Yeah, I do.
All right, then, invite your questions.
Hi. I understand the variances to reduce the parking requirements and the ratios between types of units. Can you just explain is there a GFA difference in terms of planned parking prior and post? And if so, what is that GFA going to be used for?
Sorry, do you mean a GFA of the parking garage or GFA of living space in the building?
The parking garage.
So the answer to that question is no. There's no planned change in the size of the parking garage, if I could put it that way. There is a reallocation of the location of some of the residential parking, or a request to relocate some of the residential parking to a portion of the garage. And maybe I could ask you to put up number 3. So that portion of the garage that's shown in red on the P2 parking level for this entire development block, it's shown as phase 1 there. That's currently a commercial parking garage, a permitted commercial parking garage. And an aspect of the variance that we're seeking would be to allow the residential parking for the tower phase 2 that's under construction, shown on that diagram, a portion of the residential parking to be located in that red area. So no new parking being created, no reduction in the area of the garage, but a redistribution of which parking goes where.
Okay, thanks.
So you're actually reducing the commercial parking in favor of residential parking in that area?
We are eliminating the commercial parking in that area, filling it, if I could put it that way, with residential parking, and then the commercial parking will occur under the phase 2 buildings, but that's permitted. There's no variance associated with that. The commercial parking was allowed to be anywhere on the site. And so our intention is, and maybe I could ask you to put up number 4. Our intention would be that in the final configuration, and this is a complicated site, and that's why there's so much material that's before you. In the final configuration, all of the red area there would be one consolidated commercial garage, and the yellow you see is now going to be residential space. And the key issue that we thought the residents would be interested in is that there will no longer be commercial parking circulating within their existing residential garage. And so to that end, we did hold a community meeting that my client hosted last week. We spent some 2.5 hours there answering people's questions about this. I know one of the letters of objection that's on file came in before that meeting was held. The second letter of objection came in after that meeting, but I think if you read that second letter of objection, it actually says what we're proposing is a good idea. And that was certainly the overall sense of the meeting that we held last week with the residents, was that consolidation of the parking locations was a good idea. And so that requires a variance. And then the other aspect of the variance is, right now the parking requirement for the site is based on a 1990s standard that was sort of carried forward as the site has gone under redevelopment. And so we are asking to reduce that to a much more modern 2020 standard of basically a blended rate of 0.4 spaces per unit, which is supportable if you've had a chance to look at the BA report and also the planning report prepared by Mr. Larson's office. And BA and Michael Gallinaro from BA and Ben Larson are here today if there were questions about those planning aspects. A much more supportable rate.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
So in P1 and P3 up there, there's very little, if no, residential parking. Is that correct?
Everything you see in gray is residential parking. It just happens to be from already constructed and been built. So in the new part of the building, which is phase 2, your observation would be correct. Just understanding that everything you see in gray is residential parking. So gray plus yellow equals residential parking.
So in no case will somebody have a problem with accessing their units from this new arrangement?
No. So there are two existing ramps to the parking garage associated with Phase 1. Both of those continue unchanged. There is a new ramp that's being built as part of Phase 2. That will provide access to the commercial parking spaces. As well, that new ramp will also provide access to the new residential spaces that are being constructed. But no one currently using a ramp is having their parking space moved, and they would still be able to circulate as they normally would in the underground garage.
Okay, so nobody in your feedback has mentioned access?
There have been comments about access onto Queens Quay, for example, and it's busy on the weekends because there's lots of tourists down there. And of course, with any condo, there's, people are making their comments known to the condo board about how they think traffic is working on the site. But in our submission, none of that is related to the variance that we're seeking, because we're not changing the numbers of permitted commercial parking spaces, and we're actually reducing the amount of required residential spaces. So as with any large development where you have hundreds of units there, people are going to be complaining about operations on the ground. But in my submission, none of those touch on the planning merits of the application.
Yeah, I was more concerned with people accessing their units easily.
There's a circulation route through the cars, so you'll obviously be able to drive to your unit, and then there are walkways within the underground garage that ensure that you're not, for example, going outside to get to your unit. There are walkways and pathways in the garage that connect everything.
Okay, then. If there are no further questions, are there any further questions? No. I'll look to panel for a motion, please.
I'd put forward a motion to approve with the understanding that this is a very large, complex site. Development's happened over many years, and it's understandable that ratios change. And it's well supported by several professional reports. So in that context, I move to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Reid.
And I would put forward a motion to second. Well, I'd second the motion for similar reasons. And after reading through the professional reports, I'm convinced that it's in an area where there's a lot of transportation alternatives. So I'll put through a motion.
Thank you. Seconded by Ms. Larson. So motion to approve. All those in favor? The application is approved.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the committee.
Thank you. Thanks. All right, then. Committee moves on now to 112 Balsam Ave. I will ask persons here in interest to occupy these seats along this side of the horseshoe, please. Thank you. So let me just begin by asking the persons here in interest, which among you wish to actually speak to the application after the applicant? Hands up, please. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4. Okay, that's fine. We do wish to hear from you. And I'm going to set your time at 3 minutes each for those speakers. We'll begin with the applicant, who will have 5 minutes to make his presentation. And then we shall hear from those persons here in interest on the application. So, to begin with, on this application, committee has before it material submitted by the applicant. We have in support of the application correspondence in support from Michael Mushet, 73 Pine Crescent, and 2 form letters in support from 115 and 116 Balsam Ave. There are 7 items in opposition. Correspondence from Leslie Fernan, David Neal, Grant Dietrich, Charles and Pat Roba, Heather and Howard Calvert, Sandy DeFelice, Ed Crane, and Simon Ludlow. Plus, there are some supplementary materials recently received, a building permit, I think, which allows 3 stories So, I will now start the clock and the applicant, the applicant has, go ahead. Thank you very much. Maybe it's one of the ones that came in more recently. Excuse me, sir.
I would give minutes and
I've limited these people already to 3 minutes each. If you wish to speak yourself, you can do that. Do you wish to speak yourself? That's fine. So there'll be 5 of you speaking. You'll have 3 minutes. You can use as much of it as you wish. The rest, so you'll be limited to 3 minutes each of these 5 speakers. But you don't have to use it all. Okay, we shall now commence with the applicant's presentation.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of committee. My name is David Smith. I'm here representing the homeowner at 112 Balsam. Appreciate the time that you gave us outside. It was exceptionally successful. We've come to an agreement with the neighbors that we were able to talk to, and we are actually going to remove the proposed third floor addition from the application. This removes all variances less the one for building depth, which relates to a gym that we'd like to put in at the sub-basement level. I hope that this helps to expedite some of the opposition that the neighbors want to bring up. But
it's very clear then.
Yep.
This is extremely important. So let's go over. There are on the application as noticed 4+1 variances. You're saying that all of them except one?
Yep, I can walk through them with you.
Could you tell us which one? We don't need to go through the ones that are deleted. You simply need to say they're, well, if you want to go through them and say, it's just deleted, just say deleted.
You got it, exactly. So 1 has been deleted, 2 has been deleted, 3 has been deleted, 4 is the only variance that we're still seeking, 20.55 meters where 17 meters is allowed, and 1 in the old bylaw is removed as well.
So the only variance which stands now and which committee is dealing with is the one on permitted depth, number 4, at 20.55. Thank you. Carry on with your presentation. Thank you very much. So, yes, so the purpose does need to change. The purpose currently reads, as was distributed, to alter the existing 2-story dwelling by constructing a 3rd-story addition, rear 3rd story and roof terrace, rear basement addition, and rear ground floor decks.
Yes, the description was actually submitted inaccurately. I have correspondence with Jacob where he was supposed to update it, but seeing as we're revising it here, it's neither here nor there at this point. We could revise it to simply say, enclosing the sub-basement patio area.
Enclosing the sub-basement patio
area, yes. It's currently, there's a building permit, patio area.
I want to get the wording down, so go slowly, please.
No problem.
Enclosing the sub-basement patio area.
Got it.
So the purpose is now going to read, to alter the existing 2-story detached dwelling by enclosing the sub-basement patio area.
Yes, we'll add to that extending the sub-basement because the patio area technically is only 8.5 meters, and this is an application for a 3-meter extension, which is not 8.5 meters. So.
Okay, so it'll read by enclosing and extending.
You got it. Much more accurate.
So the purpose of the application will now read, to alter the existing 2-story detached dwelling by enclosing and extending the sub-basement patio area.
You got it.
Thank you. That is the purpose of the application which the committee is now looking at. Please carry on with your presentation.
For the sake of expediency, because I know you've all been here,
just one moment. I'll ask the clock to be set to 0, please. Carry on.
I was going to say I'd be happy to answer any questions the committee has specific to that variance, if you have any, or I'd be happy to let the opposition speak as needed. I can answer or rebut to whatever they bring up.
I would think, take a few moments, if you would, please, and explain why what the need is for this depth
I see.
variance.
Okay, perfect.
Excuse me, do you have a plan of something you could put up and speak to?
Absolutely.
That might make it really visual.
Bear with me for 2 seconds. I went through all my drawings outside. The context of the site plan is probably the most important. The red line indicates the depth that we are seeking. The hatching above it is just the decking. So the nature of this property is the topography is substantially sloped. The rear of the overall lands are difficult to utilize. In dashed, you can see what was a multi-tier level deck that's been removed, and this was effectively the previous homeowner's way of, again, trying to make some of this area useful. What we're proposing is at the very lowest level of the building, so there's 4 levels effectively to this building. What we're looking to do is simply extend out beyond the patio so that we can enclose the space and utilize it for a home gym. The idea is, from a sensitivity to the neighbor's point of view, this is the lowest level, it's the most enclosed, the least intrusive. We are obviously not seeking variances for green space. We have tons of green space. We don't come near the rear yard setback. And if you see the red line as drawn, you can see that we're still effectively back from what was this massive tiered deck. So even intrusion into the backyard has been improved on that level. And beyond that, I mean, effectively, it's a 3-meter ask beyond what the bylaw allows for. I've got previous approvals here, if you'd like to see them, for upwards of 21 meters. There's some special cases where it's gone even deeper, but certainly this isn't something too contentious, I'd say, for the development of the neighborhood. And, from the point of view of planning, like we went through planning and discussed it with them, there's no report on file to suggest that they have any issue with it. And beyond that, I can provide you with a visual. It's effectively a terrace design, quite common with a contemporary style building.
Okay. Questions then of the applicant?
My only question is, why are these coming before the committee now, and why were they not included in the original design?
Oh, that's a great question. One of the neighbors asked the same thing. It was simply from a process point of view. This was actually part of the original design. The reality was that 90, or we'll call it 85% of the building could be built as of right. So the idea was to get a building permit for everything we could build as of right, and then seek variances for the components that we knew had to go through process, because that took upwards of 9 months, right? So it was really just a logistics point of view.
Okay.
The sub-basement, that makes me think that what you're talking about is beneath grade. Is it visible at grade, or is it?
No, substantially. I'll switch to the elevation. Elevation submitted with the committee. So the right, that conversation left, that lower bubble area. So the far right is ground floor, and then we've got the basement below that, and that's the lower bubble is what we're talking about extending. Currently, we have right now, as of right, a building permit to build a deck there with posts. What we're asking to do is just enclose it and take it out a few more feet to make the space to what the client would like, to use it as a gym.
But standing in the backyard, it's going to be, the area above this sub-basement is soft landscape, or it is a deck, or what?
Well, so what we've come to agreement with the neighbors is we're actually going to keep the deck. So you can see, again, in the bubbled area, the idea was we were going to have a deck over the entire portion of sort of roof that's covering this building or the addition that we're adding. We've actually cut back the deck, so we're going to keep the decking at 2.5 meters, which is allowed by right, just to mitigate the number of people that can be out there and all that kind of stuff. The rest will just be flat roof. But there's not going to be landscaping from that point of view. If you understand the topography of the neighborhood and where this is in this sort of alcove, there's a reasonable amount of foliage. My client also obviously intends to come back and plant and landscape for their own benefit the area in and around this. So it should be substantially concealed, we'll say, as much as possible, considering the topography of the surrounding buildings.
Is that the intent, is to turn the roof of the sub-basement, ground level, into soft landscape?
No. So the
half of it's going to be deck, but
exactly.
The other part.
The other half. I mean, we didn't get into the conversation about plantings on top of the portion that isn't deck. I would say that considering where it is in the sort of overall landscape topography of the lot, I don't know if it's any more useful than just having larger plantings at patio level, because we're talking about the difference of 10 feet. So trees that are planted in the ground that you didn't have to have in planters would ultimately still provide screening. But again, if you understand sort of the drop of this property, it's as tucked away in as possible. I mean, it's the best way I can describe it.
My final question along this line, just for my clarity. If I'm standing on the part of it that is deck, I'm standing on a deck. Once I leave that deck part and go and stand on the portion of the roof above the sub-basement, I'm standing on what, a concrete slab? Or what am I standing on in the backyard when I'm above the sub-basement after I've left the deck?
Yeah, the deck is only accessible from the basement level. It's a walkout. The sub-basement is below that.
So it's underground.
It's confusing because it's below grade, but it's still exposed because the topography is like this, right? So, I mean, per the drawing, right?
I get it, thank you.
It almost looks like you could almost describe it as a first floor deck with enclosed below.
Except that it's a level below is exactly, yeah. I mean, we had conversations over the...
So it's not going to be the gym, it's the gym, right?
That's the intent.
It won't be so it won't be subterranean. It's going to have probably windows on one end, right?
Yeah, it has basically the gym will say at gym level, you would open a sliding glass door and walk out to grade, right? Because at that point, the lot has come down to that level.
Yeah. So you're going to have some landscaping in front of it, but because obviously if it's a gym, you're going to want to have...
Absolutely, yeah. It's beneficial for everybody.
Yeah, okay.
I see now, thank you. All right then, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
The first person in interest to take the podium. And so I'll just advise all of the speakers. We'll move down through the group of you. We do want to hear what your comments are. You will have 3 minutes each. And please focus your comments on the application as it has been revised, because that's all the committee is dealing with now, is this depth variance, number 4, from the previous one.
Good morning and thank you. My name is Sandy DeFelice. I'm a neighbor across from the property at 109 Balsam Avenue. I came here with a number of my neighbors this morning in opposition of the application, in part because the build on this site, to Mr. Reed's point, has been incredibly egregious. All of that having been said, we came looking for a compromise with our new neighbor, interim neighbor, and we want to be clear on the elements that we have agreed to put it on the record, quite frankly, and to make sure that the committee is fully aware of what we understand as our agreement. There will be no third floor extension or deck. There will be the allotment for the bylaw provision number 4 of 17.0 meters to 20.55 meters for the enclosed gym space. The new deck will have, the new enclosed space will have a reduced deck with privacy, shrubs, and fencing to allow for the neighbor's noise abatement. The neighbor building this site has agreed to forestry's recommendation and expectation of a one-to-one replacement of 3 large trees that felled during construction for a variety of reasons, which we won't get into. And the builder has also agreed to a drainage and runoff report to ensure that there is no impact to the surrounding properties to the south of the grade. The builder has also agreed that he will sign a legal affidavit that he will not in future make any additional zoning requests on this site. And that is what the group of neighbors have, those of us who negotiated with him, I know there's a group who haven't, that is what we agreed to meet our neighbor halfway in this process. But I want to be clear for the record and clear for understanding, because this has been a challenging process for the community. And I don't want our neighbors here to think that, we gave them the opportunity to come and consult as well. We just want to be clear on where we landed and why we landed. And I wanted it on the record that all of these conditions need to be met. And then the neighbors who negotiated with the builder will be satisfied. So with that, I thank you.
Very good, thank you. Excuse me. So, all right. What you should understand about the agreement that you have with the builder is that many of those things are things that might represent a side agreement between yourselves and the builder. The item that Committee of Adjustment is dealing with is a much reduced application here for one minor variance at the depth that is described. So the other things that you've read, you may wish to come into some kind of formal agreement with, that's beyond the committee's.
Yeah, but Mr. McCulloch, my understanding is the way the process works is we come, this gets revised, we come back. We want it on the record, all of the conditions that we agree to. When it comes back with this one variance, which will be another hearing before committee.
Committee is only here to approve, refuse the variances that are before us. That's what our jurisdiction is. So we've been advised that 4 of the minor variances are deleted now. 1 is left. That's what we will be deciding on. And as I've said, you may wish to enter into side agreements with the applicant on other items. But this is all the applicant is asking for now is that one item.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Excuse me? You'll have your turn to speak. Thank you.
This was submitted. I'm not sure it was printed or circulated. Thank you.
Yeah, we did. Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, good morning. Would you state your name and address, please?
Yes, my name's Robert Murphy. I live at 123 Pine Glen Road. I'm an architect and a neighbor of the Calverts who live at 27 Pine Crescent and are perhaps the people, along with the Furmans, who are most affected by this rear addition. I've been appearing before committees of adjustment for about 40 years now, and every once in a while I get a, how did this happen? And I'm scratching my head about how this happened. You may recall in the hearing with the Fred Victor mission, there was a mistake that the zoning review made in their paperwork. The only thing I can think of is the zoning review may have made a mistake.
It was a mistake that was made by the applicant, actually, failure to oversee.
I contend perhaps the zoning reviewer made a mistake in this case. This project started as a renovation to an existing home. And at the end of the day, the existing home was completely obliterated, and we have a massive building which is 3 stories high now, extends from site to site with side yards of only 11 or 12 inches. The building length is excessive. In my estimation, in my opinion, the actual building length on this site is about 6 meters longer than the variance seems to request, because my understanding is the front wall, main front wall of the house is where you start measuring from, and the main rear wall of the house is where you stop measuring from, which makes this building significantly longer. A second understanding I have about setbacks and building depth is after 17 meters of building depth, the side yard setback is supposed to be increased to 7.5 meters. This project doesn't step back at all. It just keeps going. Which is viewed by everyone coming down Pine Crescent and the Calverts and the Furmans. This project appears as a 5-story home. Now, I'm very happy to hear that the 3rd floor or the top floor is being considered to be removed. But I would ask you to look at the rear elevation of this house and understand that the sub-basement is not only fully above grade, it's elevated significantly above the street below. So we're going to be seeing this above any sort of perimeter fence or property line fence. The sub-basement is loud and proud and in our faces. It also creates significant concern about parties, large groups. It's in very close proximity to neighbors who will be severely affected by this. And I think those are the main points that I want to make in the interest of time. I would ask you to consider these points, and I yield the floor to Mr. Calvert.
Thank you. A question for you. You're precisely on 3 minutes. I appreciate that very much. Let me ask you, because I'm still, now I'm wondering again. You mentioned that the sub-basement is above ground. When I stand and look at it, I can see this sub-basement.
There's a photograph in my package which shows a blue tarpaulin. Now, I'd like to point out, I believe the foundations for this home gym were poured long ago. This tarpaulin is just sitting here waiting for the committee's approval. But you can see quite clearly that it's visible well above the fence. It's on a raised hill, and although it's called a sub-basement, it's fully loud and proud out of the ground.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I'm here today with my wife, Heather. My name is Howard Calvert. I live at 27 Pine Crescent. Our house is adjacent to the rear end of the building in question. So we would be at the left-hand side of the screen and just towards us. So we share a fence with the new house. We have a number of very specific objections. I guess size in particular has been a real concern, and I think Bob has done a good job of addressing the fact that this house, although the address is on Balsam Avenue, it goes right through to Pine Crescent, so it has a very major presence on our street on Pine Crescent. The current structure looks like a 4-story building, and it's good to hear that they've considering taking off the top floor, because that would have been a 5-story building. But a 4-story building in our neighborhood is completely out of character. It looks squeezed in. It oversees our property, overlooks our backyard. It's all windows. It's lit up at night. It's really a very disappointing, massive building to see, and we're very concerned that there's an interest in making it even larger. The second concern that we have is with the trees in the area. So as has been pointed out previously, this home is on a fairly steep slope. We're at the bottom of the slope. There's a lot of beautiful, huge red oak trees in our neighborhood. Our neighborhood's often called a red oak forest. The builder took down one of these large trees in order to build out towards the back during construction in the summer, which was very disappointing to see. Shortly after that, another large red oak tree fell. It actually came down, it hit our house, did quite a bit of damage to our house, totaled our neighbor's car. There's photographs in a package that I left, but it did a lot of damage. We can't say for sure that taking out the tree next to it had anything to do with it, but it seems very likely that taking out a large tree is going to impact the tree next to it. The disruption to the soil is also going to weaken the root system. Looking forward, that's under the water under the bridge. Looking forward, there's 3 more large oak trees in the neighboring yard just to the north of this property that now have new exposure with these 2 trees gone, new risks due to the concrete pad that's either come out already or being proposed to be put out. So we're very concerned that those trees are posing a significant risk of injury as well as aesthetic value to our neighborhood. The The third issue that we have is water. Because we live at the bottom of this hill, probably at some point in history, our house is built where a stream used to be. It comes down. In the past, we've had water issues in our basement. We get a lot of water in our backyard.
Summarize, you are at your time.
No.
Sorry,
You can summarize if you wish.
Okay, yes. So that we're concerned that the footprint of this house with the extra concrete has put a lot of extra water pressure on the surface that will all come down to our home. There's a staircase that goes down the side that's a concrete staircase that goes from house to house on the north side, which looks like, we refer to it as it could be a sluice for water to run down. It just looks like a big funnel that's going to push water onto our property. With the proposed growth in the back, the new concrete panel is going to push water even further back. So if that panel has been poured already, we would actually like to see it removed because of the potential risk to our house.
Thank you.
Thank you for the extra time.
Question for you.
Yes.
Question for you. So that water that you're concerned about coming down, that is being channeled into your backyard?
Yes.
In your backyard.
If you were to see, sorry to interrupt, sir.
Go ahead.
But if you were to see an aerial view, while we are below and beside them, the way the grade is, it would be natural for the water to go into our property.
In a torrential downpour today, do you have issues in your backyard?
No, we don't.
Well,
because
sorry, we have some water does come, a lot of water comes down to our house. We're not having water issues in the, I guess I'm maybe not answering the question. Do we have issues today? It's minor issues with the water coming down, yes.
You're concerned.
We've had to
because
do
of
water abatement renovations to our house, drain tiles, put in new cloth in the past to keep the water out in the past. So far, right now, it's okay, but.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that was my point, is that, yeah, we have done our due diligence to take care of the water. We have not changed our yard. Everything is fine. But yes, we do get a lot of water from coming down the slope.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay. Next speaker, please.
Thank you.
Good afternoon now. My name is John Moody. I'm the owner of 31 Pine Crescent. I'm one of 5 homeowners on Pine Crescent that look directly onto this house being built on Balsam, or that has been built. And I'm here not taking too much extra time to support the comments made previously and to state my objections to the lone remaining variance.
Please.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Oh, that's my objection.
Just one moment then, please. Could you explain to us the impact of that variance on the neighborhood, on your property, on the neighborhood? What is the impact that committee should be aware of in your view?
As I understand this remaining variance adds another 10 feet of building closer to my view, and from the view from anyone on the curve on Pine Crescent that's looking at this.
So you're going to be seeing this when you're in your house and your backyard?
Yes, all over.
What will you be seeing?
In the front yard, I'm sorry, correct that. I don't see it in the backyard, but in the front yard.
Your front yard,
Yeah.
sorry, okay. So you're going to be looking at what?
We're going to be looking at 10 foot closer by X wide. A number?
The
30 feet wide?
Wall to wall.
Wall to wall building addition in front of us.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I think that does, those were the speakers that we had authorized to speak. So I will ask the applicant to return. And just to summarize what we've heard now from neighbors, Ms. Felice described quite an extensive agreement that I can see why that took 2.5 hours to work out that detail. As I mentioned, committee is dealing with the one variance here that we're faced with. But quite a number of issues that she raised there with respect to an undertaking not to do future additions and so on, and not to try to build an additional floor. To Mr. Murphy, I'd like you to, one thing, if you could note this, to address this question of the measurement. Explain to us where that measurement is taken from to get the 20.55 depth, because we need to understand that. And also the side yard setback issue. The proposed extension, I take it, will involve side yard setback variances, but they're not part of the actual variance that still remains. So we'll just ask you to address the side yard on the extension. And from the Calverts, we heard that there are concerns about trees at risk. We don't have an urban forestry notification on this file, but I would like your comments on trees at risk and the water issue being funneled down the hill that was brought up by the Calverts as well. There's still opposition to your extension, and that's the nature of what I'm hearing from those speaking. So please, you have 5 minutes now to rebut those issues.
One variance. Okay. Whoa, the mic wasn't on. I thought so. So I just want to touch on the concern of the parties that will occur on top of this. We've agreed to keep the deck above at 2.5 meters, which is what we are permitted for. And I'm just going to switch over to this. So this is, I apologize, it's been sketched up because it was part of the negotiations outside, but you can see. So in green, this is the copy of the building permit drawings you can see here. In green, and I've just highlighted it quickly, this is what we're building. So that would be a 2.5 meter deck off the back. There are concerns about patio forward that. Realize that retaining wall, concrete work done in the back, in with anything proposed that had to be done. So not like this. So this illustration makes the entire area under the deck. Deck 2.5 permitted to build to wide apartments and without committee of justice. So the number of people in the out partying on this day has been right to close regards to how this impacts the number of concern of what they're looking at from behind. This is a natural part of the topography of the lot.
Okay. I'd like you to address the questions I put to you about the measurement, the 20.55 measurement, and also the side yard setbacks on the extension.
I can't explain it. Measure.
That measurement is from where to where? The 15 point... You can point out to us, please?
9 is the front face of the building. I'll show you on the side plan. Tons of backyard. We are nowhere near the rear yard setback. There's C of A approval as previous decisions for 21.6 meters in depth. We're not setting any kind of precedent with this. City planning has not submitted a report in opposition. I think that it's fair to say that this minor variance meets the 4 tests as far as I'm concerned. And particularly in consideration of negotiations outside, we've definitely demonstrated our appetite to compromise.
Questions from your colleagues?
I don't.
As I read your the number 4, what is now our only minor variance, you're asking for this depth, but included in that, were that to be approved by committee, were it to happen, that does not permit the extension to infringe on the side yard setbacks that are prescribed by the bylaw. You don't have approval here of side yard setbacks other than what the bylaw provides for.
I understand that, and if there's been an error, it's something that we have to deal with the examiner.
What do your drawings demonstrate? Do they show it going out, following the lines that are already
built in line with the building?
Okay. That's a big issue. So, it appears to me that there's a missing variance here. A variance, that extension, as shown in your drawings, requires a variance. Both sides.
Where does it say that? To which portion of the bylaw?
Well, because this would be at this length,
Just wondering
The variance would,
why that wouldn't have been highlighted if it was variance.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not the zoning examiner, but it feels like it was missed to me. Can I ask you, Madam Acting Deputy Secretary Treasurer, do you have any thoughts on this? You don't have side yard setback variances on the house itself?
No.
Well, you don't.
The house is built as of right.
The whole house is built as right.
90% of the house is built as of right.
I take it all back.
That's why we were.
I take it all back. I thought you already had variances on the main walls of the house.
This is the first time we've been to Committee of Adjustment for this building.
Pardon me. Okay, so you could do your extension with this number for approval, following up from the main walls of the house, because it does not involve a side yard setback variance. That's very important to me. Now I understand. Okay. All right, then I think at this point we can, unless there are further questions of the applicant, I think we should take this into committee. Any further questions of the applicant? No. So we'll take this into committee, please. Any thoughts on this, Ms. Larson?
Did you two want to speak? No. Okay. Jim. My calculations, my math. I'm in and out of a lot of gyms all the time, and that's a fairly good size gym.
I mean, I commend both groups for at least getting to some sort of, whether it's not complete consensus, but some movement. That's always heartening to see. And yeah, from my perspective, the height, the third floor addition was my biggest concern for this. And I do think that the fact that I think the incremental impact of this rear addition is relatively small, given that the deck is permitted anyway, and so it's going to be underneath that. So I understand the concerns, but I think it's important for us to remember that we're just considering this one variance, right? There are other issues with this, but they're not really in our purview to examine. So I would be inclined to support this one variance, especially given with the condition of a 2.5 meter depth, maximum depth deck with screening on both sides.
My concern about about the application and about this variance is that, to me, it simply passes beyond the point at which I think overbuild begins. So I am concerned about it being overbuild, not being desirable. So my feeling would be that it should be refused. But I will now look to panel for a motion.
I'll put forward my motion, see what you guys have to say. But I would approve variance number 4 with the condition that the deck above be limited to a depth of 2.5 meters and have 1.5 meter height screening on both sides.
Very good. Motion by Mr. Reid. Is there a second?
I'm going to second that, and I like his conditions, and I would put it forward and second that with those conditions. Thank you.
Seconded by Ms. Larson. Motion to approve. Staff, did you get those conditions?
I like the...
Sure. Condition that the deck be a maximum depth of 2.5 meters from the rear of the house, and that there's 1.5 meter screening on both sides. Sides. So east and west.
Is it north and south?
North and south.
North and south.
Pardon me.
Okay. Motion. All those in favor? Opposed? The application is approved.
Thank you.
Partially.
No, the application as amended is approved. The application as amended is approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now,
It is a tough one, yeah.
give it staff.
I'll give it.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
I bought snacks.
I do too. Okay, for the information of those remaining, we still have some applications to do. The applications yet to be heard are as follows. We have 84 Atlas, 77 Eaton, and 530 Oakwood Avenue. Those applications are yet to be heard and will be heard shortly. Typically, this time, committee would be thinking about a luncheon break. What we've decided to do is press on forward without lunch, but we're going to take a 15-minute break. So it's now, we'll say, at 1:45, if I could ask everybody to be back, and we'll resume. At that time, we'll be resuming with 84 Atlas Avenue.
Thanks.